Welcome to the Lovecars on the Grid podcast, your global motorsport roundup with me, Tiff, Needell and Paul Woodman.
Welcome to episode 33 of Lovecars on the Grid, your global motorsport roundup podcast. This week we look back at WEC from Bahrain, NASCAR from Martinsville, I think it was, which had the most bizarre twist to it. The 50th Fomula Ford Festival, where Tiff wasn't there because he was celebrating his 70th birthday, and the British Rally Championship from Llandudno. And then we're also going to look forward to this coming weekend. So we've got the Mexican Grand Prix, we've got the final round of WEC again in Bahrain, MotoGP in Portimao, and NASCAR from Phoenix, Arizona. But we've got to start surely with NASCAR, as opposed to normally go with a bit of WEC or Formula One or something. But
I know. I always worry, I'm trying to encourage people to watch it, but the race was actually as dull as anything for about 450 of the 500 laps. I was hoping you weren't watching it, because there are some races in NASCAR, that I try to get people to watch that aren't that exciting. But of course, it was the last round before they cut 8 down to 4. So it was a crucial race for who was going to get through to the grand finale next week. And there's only 4 drivers that could win the title, and whoever finishes in the front of the 4 wins the title. But it just all suddenly kicked off because it looks like that Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex Jr. and Chase Elliott quickly qualified, grabbed one of the 4 spots by leading and getting enough the staging points for the section. So Chase Elliott was through. So then it looked easy. Hamlin and Truex had all the points and everybody else was out. Then all of a sudden, Keselowski started moving up from 20th to 14th to 8th. And Keselowski was like 7th in the points. So he had to win. He was never going to get in through points. And then Kyle Larson got caught speeding twice, having been up at the front of the pack, the number 5. So he was at the back of the pack. So he dropped out of contention. And the number 9, Chase Elliott, had been leading. He got punted sideways. So then all the guys tried to get the final points places were suddenly moving up the field and moving up. And it got to the stage where, because it has +1 and +1 and -1, as you know, and it changes all the time. And there was out front, mixing it out front, of course, was Bowman, who would very much win. He's not in the chase; he's already out of it. But he wanted to win a race, so he was mixing with the front. Keselowski was catching everybody up. Tension was rising. Then Truex, who could have cruised round and got in, he hit the back of a car when they all got a bit tight, damaged his own car, so he dropped backwards and had to pit. Oh, it was getting... At one stage, I think Kyle Busch, Truex Jr. and Keselowski were all on the same 0 points as to who would get through to the final 4. So it was massive pressure. But in the middle of this, as I say, Bowman was trying to win the flipping race. And on one of the restarts, because the 11, Hamlin had been leading, but Hamlin was fairly well in on points, so he didn't have to win, maybe. Anyway, to go with the interview at the end, Bowman actually, on a restart, really got into the back of the number 11 quite heavily, pushed him wide at a corner and overtook him. But as Bowman said in his post-race interview, because we're building up to what we're going to talk about, that he actually let Hamlin back by. He said that was a mistake. I outbraked myself. I'm really sorry. I didn't want to win by wrecking him. I let him by.
Which is very honourable and the right thing to do.
Yeah, very, exactly. So while the points is going on between Kyle Busch and Truex Jr. and Keselowski's coming, Keselowski was up to 3rd, trying to win. Bowman, trying to take the lead legitimately, just got slightly out of control underneath him at the tight corner and knocked the number 11 into the wall. Now, luckily, the damage wasn't too big. Otherwise, the number 11 would have gone out on points. So anyway, but it didn't put Hamlin out of the final 4, so he's still through as well. But then at the end, we then saw... and this is what NASCAR does. So this driver's just...
It was crazy.
So Bowman just parked up, didn't he, in front, was beginning to wave to the crowd, And all of a sudden, having not gone to the pit as he should have done, Hamlin comes around, locks up all the front brakes, crossed the front of him. Then Bowman did a little spin turn to get away from him, and then he charged.
He didn't really get away from him. I thought he was going to start doing donuts around him, which would have been...
Yes, I was hoping he would. I was hoping he was going to do a Tiff Needell loop around.
For those of you that didn't see it, it was like, when you see on TV, on the movies, when a baddie pulls in front of somebody and just blocks the road in front of them, just literally all 4 wheels locked up in front of him. And it was like, what is he doing? But then, as you say, I was hoping as well, Tiff, that he was going to do what you did and just do donuts around him. But they were nose.
Well, Hamlin then went into it, shoved him back.
Pushing him. And I think if it wasn't for his engineer on the comms saying, look at the bigger picture,
Bigger picture, Denny.
I think he would have still be there pushing him now until he ran out of fuel.
I haven't read anything, but I'm sure fines will be made. They like, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 fines in NASCAR. I'm sure there may be some fines coming. But it was the most bizarre end. The tension, the last 50 laps, it's only about 20 seconds a lap. They were all ticking over very fast. But yeah, then the interviews afterwards.
I was going to say about the interviews.
Hamlin, he's a boneheaded idiot. He couldn't win a race if he tried, only because he had the best car and he wrecks me.
But I didn't realise Hamlin's not very. Yeah, he wasn't very popular. So the crowd aren't too keen on Hamlin, or was it just that one incident?
Well, I think even the sort of the people not a fan of either. They like a bump and run. So the fact that Bowman hadn't won a race for a long time and he gave him a tap, they like someone tapping to win. In fact, I was amazed that Kyle Busch, who was following Bowman on the last lap and the last restart, didn't launch into him. And because if Kyle won, he would have got through to the last four. Instead, he was the one that was first out in fifth place. But there was so many, because at one stage with 50, about 30 laps to go, they actually ran 3 different screens. You probably weren't watching that. You'd probably fallen asleep by that bit when it got good. So we had the battle for the lead between Bowman and Hamlin. We had the battle for second between Keselowski and Busch. And we had the battle for fifth between Truex and the number 1 car. So literally you're having to watch 3 tense battles. So yes, 450 laps of slightly boring racing, followed by 50 laps of mayhem, post-race interviews.
If you haven't seen it, go to motorsport.com and have a look after this podcast, of course. But after this podcast,
or go to NASCAR. NASCAR.com also have lots of films retweeting the highlights of races and filming.
It's the most bizarre thing. Maybe we'll tweet it on. We'll retweet it or something as well, so you can if you follow us on Twitter. But it was very bizarre. Should we head over to Bahrain?
Which was slightly more tranquil motorsport. I mean, it's so sad. I mean, there's nobody in the grandstands. They're all out on the grid having the parades and nobody watching. And I think it's only on. I think it's on motorsport.com, isn't it? The live streaming. It's not televised anywhere. Maybe because it's 2 Toyotas are out front all the time. And it was another good win for 7 cars. So Mike Conway, Kamui Kobayashi and Jose Maria Lopez increased their championship leagues. We're all hoping that Mike Conway will retain his world title and add it to his Le Mans win this year. But I didn't really watch any of it. I read the reports as the race was going on, but there was very little of excitement going on. Tom Blomqvist, our LMP2 boy, finished second in class, but he's losing his battle. They dropped away a bit because the leaders of the LMP2 class finished ahead of them. You were saying?
No, I think the only takeaways for me, our man Ollie Webb, he was in his class. They were running third. They had some problems towards the end, so they had to retire. And Anthony Davidson, he's going to hang up
retiring.
His racing boots.
I know. Because he finished third in the LMP2 class. He's had a good season, but I think probably the work with Sky, where he is the best reviewer.
I think he's brilliant.
The best analyst of post-race action there is. I think he says it correctly and doesn't favour anyone and has a very good analytical brain. But he's 42 years old, and I think to commit to those World Endurance Championships, he missed a lot of Grand Prix because they're clashing and they're flipping hard work. It was 44 degrees centigrade or something out in Bahrain that weekend. So it's hard racing that he has to keep very fit to do. He's probably decided, time to sit in a skybox and earn probably more money and enjoy a relaxed life. He's got a young family. So well done, Ed. He did say retired from professional racing, which I'm delighted he said, because I think we'll see him at Goodwood, at Silverstone, So hopefully, Ant, we'll see you out there at Goodwood. Come and have some fun with the old timers. Not that you're old, Ant, obviously. You're only 42. Old.
He's a young whippersnapper, 42. But I would like to say he would add lots of energy to the paddock. But that's what's endearing about him. He's not perhaps like you and I that are sort of bouncing around. And,
no.
He's very cool and calculated.
Calm,
and he's very, very good.
He had a Grand Prix career. He never got into a good Grand Prix car, but he did a lot of Grand Prix and he's done the other sports cars. And he's had a great racing career. And, wonderful.
Yeah.
Actually, the main controversy in Bahrain was the GTEs because they suddenly took 25 horsepower off the Ferraris. James Collado leading the championship. And apparently there's always been, they introduced a computerized balance of power, which tells you when you've got to lose power and weight. The maximum power you can lose is an 18 horsepower downward step if you're winning all the races. But all of a sudden, Bahrain, not on the computerized system, the FIA just said, Ferrari, you boost down, you're losing 25 horsepower. Didn't give an explanation to the team or to the press. They just said, you're cut. So the two Porsches that they've been battling the championship dominated the race. Collider was third, the best he felt he could do with the Ferrari, but his championship lead is down to 1 point. So the Ferrari said, well, you've got to put us back where we were for the final round. And so this balance of power is still a nightmare in motorsport. We're going to get it with the future. You know, we're all excited about the World Endurance Championship growing with Ferrari and Porsche and Audi, all sorts joining in. But half of the field are going to be in the DPI, the American regulations, and half are going to be in the hypercar regulations. And they always have to be balanced to try and make a fair race. But for some, it's never fair. Yeah. Anyway, James, we hope you flipping well nail it the weekend, and we'll have a British champion. Hopefully, we'll have a British champion overall, a British GTE Pro champion, and maybe Tom Blomqvist, if he gets a really good result, he can still win it if the bunch in front of him fall out. So, plenty of it. If you can find it, motorsport. It's an 8-hour race, the final. So, it's a long old haul around Bahrain.
We should watch with interest in a couple of weeks, which we'll come on to next week. I'm actually doing an endurance race, and I think it's going to be probably a little bit chillier than 40 degrees, 45 degrees. Might be a bit wetter because I'm doing the race.
Are you my hero?
Yeah,
you're going well down.
12 hours.
I've always explained I've done too many laps of Anglesey. That's normally the summer. It's lovely. You're doing the Caterham.
Yeah, doing the Caterham, which
yeah.
I think it's the only chance for a podium because Fred's in our group, so Fast Freddy's in our team. Sorry, a lot. We're going to put a paddle up car in. So anyone that hasn't seen paddle up, they're an online auction, but they're really cool outfit that sell cars in the UK. Will sell cars all over the world. So they're very kindly putting a paddle up car into the race of remembrance and invited myself and Freddie along, plus someone from Mission Motorsport to race. So that.
How long's a stint then? Do you know how long a stint is going to be?
Well, it's a 12-hour race.
Fuel.
It's a 12-hour race.
How long does the fuel last?
And it depends whether it rains, of course, because if it rains, you're using less revs. So you know that, but just to tell the viewers. But so if it rains, you're using less revs, so your fuel goes longer. But typically a stint's about an hour and 10 minutes, so it's not too long.
Not too bad.
And each pit stop takes about 4 minutes, so we're trying to just work out. We want to maximize the stint as long as possible, but if somebody
don't double stint, don't be an idiot, don't be brave, don't be bold, because sometimes you do an hour. When I used to race at Le Mans, you feel pretty fresh, you know, but you do 2 hours and you completely knackered. So
no.
Good luck with that. So
thank you.
When's that then? 2 weeks time. 2 weeks.
So it's Remembrance Sunday is
2 weeks time.
Yeah, 2 weeks time. 2 weeks time. So 13th and 14th of November. So we look forward to bringing that to you in a couple of weeks' time. But this week we still got to focus on a really amazing, and I know it's dear to your heart, the Fomula Ford 50th Festival.
Fomula Ford Festival. And I felt guilty not being there. But when
you had a fairly good reason, 70th birthday celebrations. Which, by the way,
I'm not a big fan.
Before we come to Fomula Ford, is it true that you had dinner on Friday night on your birthday with Landau Norris? Norris, not Landau.
Wasn't quite with Lando, but just as we were leaving, one of my sons said, "That bloke looks like Lando Norris over there." And I turned around and well, it was Lando. And of course, I was quite surprised. He'd been racing in America. He's racing in Mexico this weekend, and he'd come home. But I think for air flights now, if you're in first class, it's so relaxing.
It's so easy, just fall asleep.
But anyway, I had to wander over. I had to wander over, and he gave a big smile and stood up and shook my hand. And I just said, thanks for all the entertainment. Keep on at it. So it was very quick, but it was nice. It's always nice when you see someone that then says hello and a nod. He's a wonderful guy, lad. He had a huge table of friends with him. I didn't want to interrupt at all, but. He did say hello, but we had a nice time.
Lovely. And it's nice. It's nice. I guarantee you, you're very modest, but I guarantee he'll have massive respect for you as well, because he would have grown up watching you on TV. Tiff, you don't realise this. It's look at Chris Harris over the weekend. Chris Harris said that you were the person that made him do what he does.
To do it, yeah.
You don't realise this.
Nice.
And it was fabulous to see so many positive comments about your birthday. It was so good.
It was Very rewarding. And even our little, the thing you've put together on Lovecars, that's had 20,000 views, beats some of our own tests. So thank you very much for that.
It's so bizarre how the internet works. We try so hard with our YouTube
algorithms,
as you all know, and we just put something on that we edited on iMovie because we didn't use the main editors. And but I think because it's you and because it's some of your best moments we've had over the last few years, and there's so many moments, it was so hard to pick 70 because there were so many that we had to cut out because we wanted to keep it at 70. But it was very good. But Fomula Ford 50th Festival.
Yeah, I did the first. I did the first 4 of them from 72 to 75. Finished 7th in the very first. It was around the Snetterton long circuit, the full old-fashioned, wonderful 2.7. In fact, if it had been at the old circuit, I probably would have gone and done it. But Brand's short circuit in an old car, you're getting beaten up by kids and everybody and modern machinery. So I didn't really want to. And in the end, and the weather's usually rubbish, and it was again, bless them. But yeah, I've only got the name of the winner, Jamie Sharp, but it's still a wonderful, wonderful event to win. I mean, at one stage, there were 130 cars entering, and from all over the world. The Germans came over, the Dutch came over, the Spanish came over. It was brilliant. I mean, now it's very much a sort of national racing scene. The Irish boys come over a lot from Northern Ireland and the South. I mean, it's still a prestige event. So they're all banging into each other's wheels and falling off. But the best story is Jan Magnussen, who won it in 1992. Got rented a car, got given a car. He finished 11th in the final. So real big up for Jan to go back there. And I'm not sure what age Jan is now, but have a go. So I felt guilty I wasn't down there for the Ford Festival.
You had a
But next year is the 50th anniversary. People always jump at the 50th running now. In the old days, it was just the anniversaries you'd celebrate. So it's only actually the 49th anniversary. So maybe next year.
Okay.
Not promising.
So this might be the most ridiculous thing I've ever said, and I've said some pretty ridiculous things, but were you at the first one 50 years ago? 49 years ago?
I finished 7th.
That's what you finished 7th at that one? Oh, wow. So you would have, if you were in this race, you would have been the only person to be in the first and
same car,
So
same car, same driver, same car, same driver.
Next year, 50th anniversary. Is it a BRSEC event? Is it?
Yeah. Battle with Danny Sullivan for 7th place, and a big fight with Danny Sullivan.
Let's try and improve on that.
Went on to win the Indianapolis
next year. Let's try and improve on that. We'll see what we can do. British Rally Championships in Hlan.
Yeah, we tried last week. We tried to highlight the British Rally Championship, and some of the Twitters said thanks for noticing us because the British Rally Championship doesn't get much coverage. They were up, and they were based in Llandudno. Now you've got me going.
Llandudno, yeah.
The worst thing is I'm worried about upsetting the Welsh by not pronouncing Llandudno. I'm going to read it again now. Got me going, Llandudno. But also the winner, Oisin Price. Is it Oisin? O-S-I-N. Oisin Price. I think it's Oisin. And his co-driver, Noel O'Sullivan. They won it in their Volkswagen Polo. So congratulations to them. There's one more round in Ireland, Northern Ireland, in a couple of weeks' time, where he's now leading the championship. So Price, Mr. Price. Good luck with that.
These boys can drive. They are fearless, aren't they? They are.
I know, and hopefully people are out in the forest because those are the classic Welsh stages. There'll be a big crowd out in Ireland on their streets. They have great crowds there because they love their rallying more in Ireland, I think, in the mainland Britain. So hopefully there'll be a good crowd out there. There's lots of different classes. I should have gone through a winners because of the junior category and all sorts. But rallying is still alive and just about kicking, and it's still a fantastic sport to go and watch.
What's your best rally experience in your life? Didn't you do something?
Well, I've survived. I've done 2 of the World Championship events. I won my very first rally, which was a one-make Ford RS2000
everybody else
one-make championship. No, don't you start. There was some very talented future rallies. I was quite shocked that I won it, to be honest. I had it with Tony Mason was me. Tony Mason, we were a top gear entry. And one of the top front runners dropped out, but I beat a Hendy boy I beat. So now I'm a Hendy ambassador. I do bring that up quite often. But yes, so that was my first was a Rally Cornwall, which I won the class. And I went from Rally Cornwall to Rally GB in a Ford Sierra Cosworth and survived, finished about 27th overall, I think. Again, that's about, there were about 200 entries, but I was in a good car. And then I did the very icy one and hated it, the front wheel drive Skoda, when it was all sheet ice and I had no control over anything. I did Scottish rally. So I've done about 4 rallies. And I've always got the car. No, you can't have them. That's the whole point.
Okay.
British Rally Championship. So the forests, you're not allowed any studs. So And the further down the grid you were, field grid, the front runners polish it more and more and more. So by the time us amateurs turn up, it's just because the point is that the professionals, you'll see they'll go off, they'll put two wheels off the tracks to get into softer snow because there's more grip. But of course, they'll widen the sort of road, but polish more of it, so there's less of grip anywhere.
What happens if
I was permanently out of control?
What happens if there's a boulder on the side of what happens if there's a boulder on the side of the road?
Well, they'll lose the front wheel and regret it.
Okay,
it's an incredible sport.
It is an incredible sport.
But it is. We would point in my most bizarre motorsport moment of my life. It was on this icy rally. We couldn't get up the hills. I mean, it was 5 miles an hour. Front wheel driving, of course. And I saw these headlamps were catching me up the hill. So I thought, oh God, because you can't stop because then you'll never get going again, and I can't really hold them up. So I pulled over to the side. I think it was a left-hand drive car, so I pulled this way. The next thing I saw was Rachel or Stephanie Simonite, one of the Simonite sisters, walking past me with a rope over her shoulder, pulling her sister up the hill to get 6 miles an hour instead of 3 miles an hour. In a world championship motorsport event, I was overtaken by a girl or a woman pulling her sister with a rope. Incredible.
Are we going to see that next week in the Mexican Grand Prix?
No, don't think I'm going to be pulling it. There might be some pushing and shoving going on. This tension's building and building. And of course, Mexico's got that great big long straight. They're the controversial. Every time you have an S-bends always create more mayhem. Look at Monza, 2 contacts, and the first corner at Imola. Because you push someone right, then you've got the next corner. And of course, the end of that big straight at Mexico, it's right, and then a short straight, and then left, and then right again. So if you try to go around the outside, you then get shoved off, and you go across the grass, and then is that track limit? So that it's going to. Hopefully, it's going to be. Hopefully, they'll both be on the same sort of pace. And the Bottas and Perez, you see, Perez might up his ante a bit. I know he's finished third, but he's still way off Verstappen's pace. But maybe the Mexican crowd will get Perez up to pace more, and Bottas will have a good weekend. Might have actually had 4 cars.
It's a 2-horse race. It's a 2-horse race. I think Perez and Bottas could play their part. Perez will more than Bottas, but it's a 2-horse race. Those two are so far ahead of anybody else, Hamilton and Verstappen. They're 2 exceptional talents.
The crowd it's a great crowd there, but it's always a fantastic atmosphere, and that sort of I think it used to be a baseball ground, didn't it? But they had that huge grandstand just before the chicane. They're stupidly slow corners in front of this massive crowd. But
Lewis has done a few donuts there once or twice, which I think is really cool. They should let them do that a bit more, but he would have got fined.
I'm buzzing for it. When will it be? It'll be sort of 6 p.m. English time. I've looked at the clocks. I know exactly.
Yeah, a couple of Coronas.
Get the beers in.
When you say Coronas, should we in this day and age? It's probably the wrong beer to choose. But what's another Mexican beer? Soul Lager. So we've mentioned WEC back in Bahrain.
Well, we hope we'll have 2 British champions. But we'll just move a bit north, not far from Mexico, is Phoenix with the NASCAR finale. So that's around the 1 mile tri-oval in the deserts at Phoenix. So that's the cracking NASCAR finale, which will probably finish the Formula One and go straight to. In fact, you mentioned MotoGP because we can spend all of a Sunday watching the motorbikes. Then we'll have the Formula One, and then we'll have the NASCAR. What a brilliant motorsport on Sunday! Don't plan to do anything on Sunday. Because as Paul just mentioned, MotoGP go down to that wonderful Portimao track in the Algarve Grand Prix. Of course, Fabio Quartararo's already won it, the French guy. But Moto2's still got the Remy Gardner, the Aussie boy, holding on to a reasonable lead. And then Moto3's got Pedro Acosta holding on to a reasonable lead. They've still got 2 rounds to go. So there's still 2 championships to be settled. More Valentino Rossi love, I'm sure, in Portugal for him. So yeah, MotoGP, exciting stuff. So it's quite a big Sunday coming up, even though we're getting towards the end of the season. And even though Formula One, is it 5 more races, including Mexico, I think?
It's incredible.
It goes on until, when does it go on till? Where's my little note?
Right the way through.
I've lost it now. December, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just incredible how the season is now for these guys. But it's great for us as a fan.
It keeps it going.
On the not so much the drivers, because like you said, Lando's living the life of luxury, flying back whenever he wants and do what he wants, coming for your birthday dinner. But the teams and everybody behind it, it's exhausting work having such a long season. But they still got a lot to catch up with NASCAR. And finally, the sporting highlight of last weekend, for you must have been Watford.
Yes.
This is a podcast for motorsport, but it's Tiff's birthday weekend, so it's only fitting. What a birthday present that was.
I know. I got a wonderful birthday. I had so many lovely messages on Twitter and on Lovecars, and I was very touched by the amount of messages that came through from all around the world. And then great Friday night out with Lando turning up for my party. You know, nice for you to turn up, Lando. Yeah, all right. And then we stayed in London at an Airbnb, lovely, the whole family, just me and the boys, and then went to Watford with a bit of a hangover on the Saturday and watched Watford win. And came home and had another Sunday lunch with my brother. So yeah, it's been a wonderful weekend. So I've got to get back to work now.
Yeah, let's do some work. Well, on that note, thanks for joining. Next week should be an absolute humdinger. Until then, see you next week.
Cheers.
Cheers.